out there and create a youth movement in order to be seen at the mall so that CBS cameras could show that there is an active movement. That visual in a media age, the latter part of the 20th century, since Kennedy versus Nixon, was about the visual. If 1960 was an important period in visual media, where do you think we are when every person here has a better camera in his or her pocket than CBS did back in 1960? And so the visual matters. The James and Hannah putting Acorn on camera and seeing these people misbehave was stronger than 1,000 articles that people could write. And so what the Tea Party is so deeply offensive to the left right now is because of the visual component of it. It's that we're so angry that we're putting off our Costco shopping spree on a Saturday, or going to a park to watch our kids, saying, you know what, I think that we're going to save this country. I think that we're going to stand, that the last 20 years of going to Crate and Barrel and Starbucks 3 times a week, maybe I can put off the immediate gratification to save the country for future generations. And so the left, the media which put Barack Obama, Acorn's chief organizer, into the presidency, when this group of people that we call the Tea Party, or Hollywood conservatives that have been in hiding for so long, that are now starting to come up because they realized the same left that put them in the closet 40 years ago is the same left that wants to take over the rest of the country, and these people are trying desperately to come out and say, don't make the bargain with these people. They're totalitarians. They don't want to hear the other side. They want to put you in your place, and they want to control you. And so what is happening right now is that the media is conspiring with the left, and it happened so quickly. In January of 2009, the mantra of the left that was abided by for 8 years under George Bush at a time of war on the issue of war was dissent is patriotic, which made it impossible for a reporter in the alternative media to point out that the anti-war movement was being organized by International Answer, a Stalinist communist group, and that if you were to say that Jessica Lange and Jane Fonda are at an anti-war rally with 10,000 people on the Mall in Washington, and it's being organized by communists and pro-Kim Jong-il types, the mainstream media would say, are you challenging their patriotism? And it acted as a mechanism that caused people to say, I guess we're not allowed to point these things out in America. Dissent is patriotic meant that anything goes. Based upon dissent is patriotic, Timothy McVeigh is patriotic in their definition of what patriotism is. But the second that their president came in and they're now in control of everything, the first thing that they did was say that those people who went out and protested TARP and the stimulus and more irresponsible and excessive spending, they went out there and they said, nope, what you're doing is unpatriotic. They used the word 1 billion times. All you have to do is type in unpatriotic and Tea Party, or Tea Party and racist, and Tea Party and homophobic, and Tea Party and violent, and Tea Party and McVeigh. These people have done everything in a period of a month to turn dissent is patriotic to dissent is treason. And that is because they've understood for the longest time that they're the minority in this country, but they've used these Stalinist left-wing, anti-free speech, anti-transparent techniques to intimidate good and decent people from behaving the way good and decent people behave in a democracy. This is a participatory democracy, and we've allowed for the left to be the sole participants on the college campus, in Hollywood, and in the mainstream media. I'm sorry, folks, but culture is upstream from politics. When they control all of your culture, this is why you got yourself into this trouble, and this is why we're in the position that we're in now, is to finally take it back. So how can you do it? Look what James O'Keefe did with $1,400. That's all he did. He took down Acorn. People have been talking about taking down Acorn, but he did it with $1,400. The people who are working with me right now, and the reason why I'm this passionate about what I do, is I don't even make that much money doing what I do. I want to save this country. I'm going to tell you who writes for me. I use the exact same model that I created for Arianna Huffington, but I'm not doing it for money. I'm doing it to save this country. And who writes for me? Not people that I met in Cambridge or in fancy places who have private planes. I have people writing for me that want to save the country too. It's the Tea Party with a pen. It's individuals who want to save this country and who are seeing stories that the mainstream media ignores. And so let me tell you a story, just because I'm from Hollywood, and I just think that this is just the coolest story in the world because I just think it's neat. Because I think that when you're a success in Hollywood, you would think all you have to do is get your toenails, pedicured and get, your back waxed, and, you just, like, life is just like a mint julep or something. I don't know. And so I have researchers and reporters, authors, writers, senators, congressmen who find me, citizens from across the country who find me and say, I've got a story, or I see the passion that you have, and I want to write for you. I've got a story. And all I can do for these people is walk through fire with them. If they're going to put their lives on the line, if they're going to be whistleblowers against an orthodoxy that is so evil that it would try to destroy people who come out and tell the truth, and that's all they're doing, the least I can do is march through fire with these people. And that's what I offered. That's all I offered Hannah and James, is we need to get the story out there, but I'm going to stand with you, and that's all I do. And so I've got my best researcher is on a top network show, and he's a star that you would recognize. And I met a grip, like some guy that walks around with a tool belt on, who's also a conservative in Hollywood. And he said, you know what so-and-so does in between his takes? He goes into his dressing room and he researches for you. That's all he wants to do, is save this country. And so I don't know why that excites me. Maybe it's because the people who have benefited the most from this country, those people who I call my neighbors, and I'm sitting on my porch with that gun in front of me, have seemed to be the most ungrateful. The ones that have benefited the most from this country have been the most ungrateful. And it's a very frustrating dynamic to watch the hypocrisy of these people, whether they lecture you on your SUV while they fly to Cannes in their private jet. It's a word beyond hypocrisy. The arrogance, the cynicism is beyond imagination. And so when I realize that somebody who could be getting pedicured while he's drinking a mint julep and, going gallivanting with Paris Hilton in Vegas, where I just got a news break, she got caught with cocaine today, by the way. Shock. That in Hollywood, there are people, and a growing number of people who would be here today in this room with the same patriotic fervor that you have and the same sense of wanting to take this country back. It makes me, and this happened before the Tea Party movement, it makes me realize that there is something special afoot in this country, an unprecedented resurgence of what is good and right, and a recognition that everyone in this room is guilty of having squandered that for the longest time. But now we have a unique opportunity to refound this country. And I'm telling you right now, media is the most important tool in this battle. It is war. And if you don't get hip to how to use the techniques of the new media, then you're sitting on the sidelines. This is how transparency happens. So if you see corruption, document it. If you see a thug politician using one of his guys and telling you to shut up when you're asking him, will you read that 1,000-page bill, and they push you down, film it. Put it up on the internet. It is the visual, it is the media that has made it so that not just the Democratic Party is scared witless, but the complacent right wing, the complacent Republican Party in Washington doesn't know what to do either, nor do many of the institutions that were created a generation ago to help this problem, that have become part of the problem because all they care about is their own self-perpetuation. What is happening right now is that we are a self-educated mob of polite Americans with electronic pitchforks, and we're taking the country back. So if they're upset with you and they start to attack you as they've attacked me, it's because they know that we're winning. And that's the message that I've come here to offer you, is that we are winning and we are about to win. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. Andrew's going to be taking some questions. Do we have a microphone? Alexis has got a microphone. Once again, if you just identify who you are and where you're from and keep your questions short so we can get to as many of them as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it on? No. Okay, there it is. Thank you, Andrew. You are truly a breath of fresh air. And I'd like to say, in all sincerity, a real patriot, because you've been on both sides. People like you and David Horowitz have veracity now. You have truth, and people are listening, and the time is right. I'd like to ask you a question, and for those of you that haven't read this article, please go on the net and try to get it. Are you familiar with the article recently? I can't remember the author, in the American Spectator, called The Ruling Class?
No.
Okay. It's nice to hear some of the responses. Please get a chance to read it if you can. And what's interesting is the article describes the country as the ruling class and then the country class. And don't misinterpret country as the little urban rural farmer. It's well worth your while. It explains the dynamic, the paradigm that we're facing here, the elitist mentality. You don't have to be a rich Hollywood type or an Obama to be a member of the ruling class. So I recommend it to everybody. Keep up your good work. We are behind you so much.
Thank you. What I will say is this. Maybe it's because I grew up in Hollywood and I had friends that lived in the Malibu colony, and I got to be on the beach with Cher and Barbara Streisand. That I don't want to replicate that lifestyle for my children. But the number one experience I can tell you about my current lifestyle that recognizes that the elite is the problem, and that it's not just the Democratic Party and it's not just the media, that there are many people who have an R next to their name or who even claim to be conservatives who are part of the problem. And that is when I go into Washington. How many people, like when you plan to go into Vegas, you go, I haven't been to Vegas in a long time, I can't wait to play blackjack, I can't wait to see, okay, Dennis Miller's playing at Caesars, okay, there's that new steakhouse, oh my God, I've got to go, it's going to be so great. But then in your 48 hours that you're going to be there, it's usually about Saturday at around 5 o'clock when you're about to start night 2. And I think I need to go to McCarran Airport. I need to go home, I'm losing my soul. The same thing happens to me when I go to Washington, D.C., because I live in Los Angeles, and if you look at who I have on my schedule to meet, it's dizzying. It's like, wow, that person's very important, that person's very important, that person's very important. And each of them is nice. Each of them conveys a sense of integrity, and I can easily kind of be bought off by their charm and their understanding of how the system works. But by about Saturday evening, at about the same time, I have to go to Dulles, because you can see how easily, over a very long period of time, people that you send to Washington can be brought into this process. And that's one of the reasons why I instinctively defend Sarah Palin, because the reverse side of that group of people who send their kids to school together is that they protect one another. And if you don't live in that world and you don't have a 6 degrees of separation, you're not protected. I guarantee you, if Sarah Palin was the governor from Delaware, that her friends would have had friends with people within that class of people, and that as they're attacking her children and the paternity or the maternity of her children, Madeleine Albright or somebody, Biden's wife, would have called up and said, stop it, these are good people. I disagree with them politically, but our kids go to Sidwell Friends together, and they're lovely people. Sarah Palin was destroyed by this class of people, not through just the commission of the mainstream media treating her as not one of the elite who didn't speak and act like them, but she was also the attempted to destroy her through the sins of omission of the political class, not reining in the excesses of the media class. These people don't understand the power that they wield in terms of creating powerful narratives. And so I like the Sarah Palins of the world. I like her accent. I like that what she says frustrates them. I like the analogies that she uses, because her Saturdays are a lot different than the Saturdays that these people are spending. And so it is a battle against the elites. And so I hate to say that I'm a throw the bums out type of person, because it sounds so cliche, but I think we need to throw the bums out.
Thanks for coming, Andrew. Timothy Condon here. I'm with the Free State Project, and I hail from the Free State of New Hampshire. Your message is super optimistic and super positive, that we're on the verge of a historic victory. And yet
It's not just electoral. It's about that we're finally awakening to the fact that we have to be in charge of our own future. Sorry,
No, that's okay. I need to say I'm pessimistic, and I think you may have the answer to this. They live and die in power. They live within this world of leftism and socialism and collectivism and statism. Every single day, they live within this. Their aim is to get more power. Their aim is to enhance the power and the reach of government. We have lives. We have families. We have children. We have jobs. We don't do politics. Politics is a hobby for us. It is their whole life, the aggrandizement of power for them. We have souls. We have churches. They don't have souls. How do you fight that over the long term? How can we win against that? They're like termites. They never stop.
Well, I don't disagree with you on the premise, but 1994 was the last. Most of us remember 1994 and the disappointments that came with the lack of follow-through of the class of 1994, and they became part of the problem. But I really do look at the internet as the beginning of the sea change. And in my world, the commercial internet began in 1995, the year after. There was no checks and balance. And so I was speaking at Hillsdale College, had a cruise, and I took my son on it. I'm part of the elite now. And we were in Europe, and I checked in on the slow speed internet, and I was completely lost. like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. I'm not affecting things out there. And I saw that on Big Government we had put up a video. I had nothing to do with it, by the way. My editor, Mike Flynn, caught wind of it. It was sent to us, and he put it up. You remember when Bob Etheridge, the congressman from North Carolina, was caught on video being asked by two kids who were dressed, in a coat and tie, and asked, "Do you support the president's policies?" And the guy grabbed them and said, "Who are you? I have a right to know who you are." That didn't exist in 1994. And so the burden on the political class is going to be far greater in the coming generation with media everywhere you look. That these people who think that they can go to strip clubs on, the RNC's dime and, and live it up and lap it up, as it were, it's over. We're there. They behave so egregiously and so wantonly and so excessively for so long that there are millions of people out there who are now doing the job that the press should be doing, and they're not going to have any option but to be held accountable for their misbehavior. That never existed before. We expected that the media class would act as a checks and balance against this. No, they were part of the problem all along. So that's where we come in. That's where transparency comes in.
Hi, good afternoon. I just, as a parent, trying to deliberalize my two sons in their 20s, how are you doing with your kids, considering that you're in an area that is just rampant?
They're 4 through 11, and even though the instinct is to try and, given that I've been in carpool and had a son's friend say, "I wish that President Bush would be assassinated," and I'm thinking, it's not so offensive. Well, it is offensive, obviously. It's just that came from somewhere. That came from the parents. And the one thing I will grant my parents in a big way is to maintain my children's innocence as long as humanly possible. So I personally try not to politicize my children, and it's got my parent. They pay attention, but I always tell them, when they're 6 years old, I go, "You don't understand." I go, "Please just go play with the ball outside." I was raised Jewish. I was bar mitzvahed, but I'm sending my oldest son next year to a Catholic school. Please, God. Please save him. I don't trust the public schools. I'll tell you my one experience. I had a pretty good public school because it was about the parents. But the first day, and my big fear was it was going to be indoctrination. My first day of kindergarten, Samson, who's now going into 6th grade, going into kindergarten, the first day, I swear to God this is true, he comes home crying, saying, I didn't get a sticker on my finger. I didn't get a sticker on my finger, on my hand today. I said, what's wrong? He said, "You put a plastic bag with carrots, and it's going to kill the dolphins." That was day one. That was day one. So, yes. Apropos of something.
If you only answer one is, I live in St. Petersburg, where we have what I like to call Pravda West, the St. Petersburg Times. It's a very liberal paper. And I'd like to see people who want to invest and who take advantage of the millions of Americans craving some media that's honest and not liberal, buy those people, or put up a real competitor and commit for 5 years to put out the movie times and the weather and the sports and have some real newspaper reporting right next to them on my front lawn. Can you comment on that? I know you're big in new media, but I like the old media, and so do a lot of people.
I just like watching when a newspaper in a town goes down. It's like, ding dong, the witch is dead. I just, the schadenfreude of it all is all I'm rooting for their demise. Why? Who's not online at this point?
I open a newspaper every day and I read the Wall Street Journal.
Right. Well, that's because they offer a maid service on Thursday if you take it for free. I mean, yeah. Well, then get a billionaire to buy it. And I mean, I don't run with that set of people. I'd rather just watch the paper's demise. That's my only. I like that new media trajectory like this, old media trajectory like that. I'm a simpleton. What I'll say is this: when you said about the pensions and the doctor stuff and how I do what I do, and it's already happened once here with it. I'm not going to tell you who, actually. I'm giving away a source. That would be unprofessional. But the way that I do what I do is I give my cell phone out, and I meet people at events like this, and they grab me and they say, I've got this great story. And then we figure out a way to hook you up with one of my editors to try and figure a way how to turn that idea or turn that document or that video that you have into something valuable that people will want to see, not just on my site. And trust me, this is an important part that I didn't get into, is that, and I learned this the hard way with the Shirley Sherrod thing, it's rarely about launching a story off of big government that causes the president to react. It's how the mainstream media reacts to it when we force them to have to cover it. And the way that Fox showed that story did not take into account that I had been waging a battle against those that would attack the Tea Party as racist. And that was the context that I offered in my piece. And so I had two videos within the context of a story that said the NAACP was behaving in a nefarious way to tar the Tea Party as racist, and that those that live in glass houses should not be throwing stones. That's why when the NAACP on day one apologized for the audience's reaction, I felt that I had hit the target, but it's about the mainstream media covering it. So what we try to do with big government and big peace and big Hollywood and big journalism is to take a story and hope that a producer of a talk radio show or from cable news or for hopefully ABC, CBS, or NBC realizes that they have to cover this story, because if they don't, they'll be doing a Van Jones apology by the ombudsman on a Sunday saying we were late to that story. So we try and figure out how to write the story to make it so that the mainstream media or the alternative media has to cover it. So that's what we do. If you've got a good story about pensions or something, people are writing it about it. I live in California. We're about to go under Greece style because of pensions. But if you have a story or if you have goods or documentation, there is a means to get that story out now, and it's going to be a lot easier going my way than it is going to find a billionaire to buy that paper and hope that it's on A36. Okay. Oh, sorry.
Could you discuss how net neutrality is going to be affecting you and other internet bloggers?
Oh my! Turn off the camera. I don't even. We're covering that. It is not my realm of expertise. I'm sure that if you clue me into the cons of net neutrality, I actually don't know enough about it to talk about it. I know it has to do with the pre-existing carriers, like the. Explain to me. Oh, I should know about that. No, I'm against it. I think that I just read something on my site in passing. You know how you have things that you read about, like in the sports page, you go, I read baseball and football, but I don't read about soccer? Yeah, I'm against that. Anything that sounds too good to be true, like fairness doctrine, or net neutrality, or I'm for the children, or I want to save the environment. I'm like, I'm instinctively on the other side. I'm against the children, I'm against the environment, I'm for net negativity. Oh, really? I'll go to war with these people. If they're gonna, I told you, I'm sitting on my porch with a gun. They're gonna have to take my internet away from me. Yes. She gets a question too, because okay, both of you, because you were both I focused on you guys because you were very enthusiastic. So.
Well, we are, and I'm actually kind of piggybacking off of what Dr. McCallick said. John, is it on? Okay. I'm Sharon Calvert. I'm actually leader of the Tampa Tea Party here in Tampa. So this is great that you're here and appreciate it. Closer? Okay. Okay, I'm Sharon Calvert. I'm leader of the Tampa Tea Party here in Tampa. Great that you're here. We appreciate it. Read your website every day. But one of the things here in the Hillsborough County area, this is a microcosm of DC. We've got a number of issues that basically are similar to what, at the federal level, perhaps even the state level, are encountering. And from a media perspective, we had a media blackout on an issue that we're working on. So my question to you is, you've got the big government sites here, the big sites. Are you ever going to have something maybe to get the local stories out somehow?
Well, I would like to have more infrastructure. I mean, if you knew how many employees I had, you'd cry. We have 9 employees that do all the sites. So we have no resources. But
We understand that.
all we have is people power. And so if somebody comes to me with a local story that is a microcosm of a larger story, we put it up. I have no problem doing Tampa corruption stories, or it's fun going after. Oh, you know which one that we're going to do, and I think is going to be the most fun to do? That's big education. I want to take professors and provosts down, like one by one. Oh, it is going to be so fun. And go after the unions. I'm telling you, I want to tell these lefty media types how emancipating it is. Just say it. You're biased. I'm biased. Come on in. The water's warm. Transparency. Okay. Thank you.